Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, the largest museum in the world devoted to the arts, sciences, and artists of movie making. My name is KJ Relth-Miller. I'm the Director of Film Programs here at the museum, and I want to thank you for joining us in our David Geffen Theater for the International Feature Film Panel presented as part of our Oscar nominee spotlights. Before we begin our program, the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures acknowledges the Tongva people as the traditional caretakers of the water and land on which we program, curate, educate, convene, and discuss. We honor and respect Tongva ancestors and the Tongva community today, which continue to nurture this land and water through traditional practice, activism, art, and education. We also acknowledge their continued work to safeguard cultural resources. Oscar nominee spotlights are made possible by the Ruderman Family Foundation. Oscar nominee spotlights is presented thanks to Afila by Sony Honda Mobility. Additional support provided by Clarendelle and Domaine Clarence Dillon and Champagne Lallier. Academy Museum film programming is generously funded by the Richard Roth Foundation. I would like to thank our ASL interpreters who will be assisting us today. Their names are Abuhu Zuniga and Tim Mills. Thank you. Nominee programs bring select screenings of Academy Award-nominated shorts and panels with Academy Award-nominated filmmakers in the lead-up to the 97th Oscars to the Academy Museum for the public. We have one final nominee program tomorrow with the nominees from the makeup and hairstyling category. That's at 11 a.m. You won't want to miss it. If you don't already have tickets, they are still available. And the 97th Oscars will be held on Sunday, March 2nd at the Dolby Theater at Ovation Hollywood and will be televised live on ABC and streamed live on Hulu. Before we begin our program, please silence, darken, and stow your mobile devices, including phones and smartwatches. Now, please join me in welcoming to the stage Meredith Shea, Chief Membership, Impact, and Industry Officer of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, who will share more about the Academy nomination process. Meredith?
Thank you, KJ. Let's give a round of applause to KJ. She programs all of the amazing films with her team in this theater. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, those of you joining us virtually, and for those of you here with us in the theater, which I like to call a cathedral to cinema. On behalf of Academy CEO Bill Kramer and President Janet Yang, I want to welcome all of you to our annual International Feature Film Panel. The Academy's commitment to global cinema extends beyond this category and awards. We have a deep dedication and appreciation to the global landscape of film and its artists. The Academy has year-round initiatives such as impact programs, museum exhibitions, and membership engagement to support this vital work. The International Feature Film Award, formerly known as Foreign Language Film, has been honored annually at the Oscars since 1956. The category celebrates global cinema and the richness of storytelling that transcends borders, culture, and language. Each year, international films captivate audiences and remind us of our core connection and what we have with each other. We are so proud of our international presence, not only in this category, but across all 23 Oscar categories. I want to take a moment to recognize and thank the people who support this work and make this category happen. Our incredible global outreach team led by Dilcia Barrera, and this team includes Ignacia Delgado, Esther Moon, and Camille de los Santos. Thank you, ladies. In October, we received 88 submissions from 5 continents. All Academy members are invited to opt in and vote in the preliminary and nominations rounds of voting. We have members from all 19 branches who watch many hours of movies in order to qualify to vote. This ensures the integrity and excellence of this category. Now, I would like to take a moment to thank and acknowledge the tremendous work of our International Feature Film Executive Committee, chaired by Ngozi Orwa from the Short Films Branch and Raj Roy from the Executives Branch. They are the global representative group that oversees the rules and uphold the category's high standards. Ngozi and Raj have led the Executive Committee with leadership and grace. They have played such a vital role in overseeing the rules, the selection committee process for this category, and they share a deep commitment to global cinema and ensuring that the voices of filmmakers from around the world are heard and celebrated. They have each served on the executive committee for 6 years, and this will be their final year, and I would just like to take a moment to sincerely thank both of them for their dedication to the Academy and to filmmakers. Ngozi was not able to join us this evening, but she's watching on the live stream and she sends her support from afar. Thank you so much, Ngozi, for everything. We know that you are here with us. And now it is my honor and privilege to welcome to the stage my favorite person to have a martini with, the International Feature Film Executive Committee Co-Chair, Mr. Raj Roy.
Can we do it now?
We can.
I need that martini now. Boa noite. Guten. Bonne soirée. Buenas noches. Guten Abend. Asla Becher. And for the first time in Oscars history, La Vacar. And of course, meow. Good evening. Those were the many languages from our 5 nominated films. It's a true honor to welcome you to this gathering, once again, celebrating the power of international cinema and our 5 nominated international feature films. The world of cinema knows no borders. Its films are bridges that connect us to one another. A film created in one small corner of the world can break hearts and open minds thousands of miles away. These films, these bridges, they are the magic we celebrate tonight. As Meredith mentioned, Academy members from around the world watched, and then voted for the films in the international feature film category, from 88 submissions to a short list of 15 to the final 5 nominees. Almost 2,000 Academy members voted in this category. Some of those dedicated voters are here this evening, and I invite you to please stand now and accept our applause and gratitude. Thank you for your dedication and your support of this category. I'm proud to stand in your ranks. Tonight, we have representation for each of the nominated international feature films. They helped tell stories and introduce unique characters that were not solely localized in their representing country. Through their artistry, perspective, and dedication, their films offered profound insights into our world. We start with Brazil. A mother's love is limitless and ferocious. We follow her as she relentlessly fights for the truth after her husband is taken by a military dictatorship, and she strives to keep her family together. From there, we go to Denmark. 1919, Copenhagen. A young pregnant woman is alone after her husband goes missing. She struggles to make ends meet and finds work at an adoption agency where she uncovers a horrifying secret. And then from France, Vive la France, a musical crime drama centered around a Mexican cartel leader who yearns to live life authentically and does so by transitioning. And yet, she finds herself facing the entanglements of the past. To Germany, through the lens of an Iranian filmmaker. where a judge's paranoia spirals out of control, and as protests erupt across the country, his own home is filled with suspicion and repression. And finally, to Latvia, a first-time nominee in this category. This is a dialogue-free animated film following a cat, a dog, a capybara, a lemur, and a large bird, etc., as they form an unlikely team trying to stay dry and survive in a post-apocalyptic world. Let's now take a look at some clips from the 5 nominated films for Best International Feature.
From Brazil, I'm Still Here.
Tá olhando o quê? O que vocês querem? Cadê meu marido? Vai embora! Sai daqui, vai embora! Sai! Zezé, pega cobertor pra mim, por favor.
From Denmark.
Mette?
Det er til dig.
Hvem er de?
Karoline? Vi mødtes på badeanstalten.
Kom ind og luk døren.
From France, Emilia Perez.
Miren el químico que lo nombraron ministro de algo alquímico. Él hace poco mandó a matar a su socio y familia, a chingar. ¿Y qué hicieron con esos cadáveres? Asesino. Miren al juez Santos, mírenlo, no le importa nada. Solo los niños, los narcos, los ratanaderos los llevan afuera de todos sus pueblos natales. A cambio de eso, Santos reduce los juicios a falta de pruebas. Habla, esta gente habla, pero ahora lo van a pagar, a pagar, a pagar. Habla, esta gente habla, pero lo van a pagar, lo van a pagar.
Todo el mundo los conoce, a mí nadie.
From Germany,
The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
نجمه جان
چرا؟
اسلحه‌مو کجا گذاشتی؟
اسلحه؟ نمیدونم، من به اسلحه دست نزدم.
From Latvia, Flow.
It is now my great honor to introduce the filmmakers associated with our nominated films. For Brazil, Walter Salles, director, I'm Still Here. So, yeah, the one not quite there. For Denmark, Magnus von Horn, director, The Girl with the Needle. For Germany, Mani Tildner, producer, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. And for Latvia, Gins Zilbalados. Zilbalados. Sorry. Director, Flo. Gentlemen, welcome. Ooh, that's loud. So, before we begin our conversation, I know that there are a lot of participants from your films joining us tonight, and we want to acknowledge all of the filmmakers, all the folks involved in creating these incredible works. Gins, maybe we could start with you. Would you acknowledge anyone who is in the audience who you'd like to give acknowledgement to?
all of our team from Latvia just arrived. For many of them, it's the first time in the US, and now they're going to the Oscars, so it's pretty wild. Yeah, we have we have my co-composer, we have my producers, and we have our VFX artists and animators and designers. So everyone's here.
I think we can ask them to stand. Is that correct?
Maybe they're not here.
Flow crew.
Maybe they'll arrive later.
Maybe they got caught up in a flood.
Yeah.
Manny, anyone you want to acknowledge?
Yes, actually, our editor, Andrew Bird, should be here somewhere. So I would like to say hello.
Please stand.
And of course, people who are not here, but the director, of course, Mohamed Rasulov, who will be coming tomorrow. Also, Mizah, who is playing the father, who you just saw on screen. I'm very excited to see him, actually, because he will come here for the first time. I haven't met him yet, so very excited. And two actresses who are here, but not here in the Saal, Sitare and Massa, who are also in Los Angeles, and very excited for Sunday.
Amazing, amazing. Magnus.
Yeah, we also have a huge crew here from that came from Denmark and Poland, and I think everyone arrived today. And I see they're all over, so I really want them to stand up, and no one be shy. Just stand up. You really deserve it. It's an amazing crew.
And I have a feeling there's some Brazilians in the house.
Well, first of all, boa noite, good evening. It's an honor to be here. Honor to be here, and honor to say that Fernanda Torres, I think, is here. Is that here? So please, hey! So now that you know that Fernanda is here, and I can say that she elevated the film and she made us all better. So now you're going to see the people who were made better by Fernanda. So the whole family of I'm Still Here, please, that are here. Well, thank you.
And of course, we're missing some French representation. We'll speak a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's just say there were some awards in Paris tonight earlier, and so many of our French representatives chose to be there, as did Mohamed. So we usually try and frame this discussion around some commonalities between all the films. But this year, I have to say, we must rightly acknowledge that each of your films is remarkably singular. Even the old fallback that I always try, well, these films all address our common humanity. Gint, in your film, there is no humanity left. So that doesn't even work this year. So let's try and address each one individually at first. And Gint, we'll start with you. Since you represent a first, the first time that Latvia is represented in this category, talk to us, if you would, a little bit about the impact that the film has had at home for you.
Yeah, it's been doing really well back home, and it's the most watched film in cinemas of all time in Latvia. So, and yeah, it's been crazy. Like, we did not expect this. We thought we would make like a small personal film, and now to end up here is really huge. And so everyone's like probably gonna stay up on Sunday night and watch it live.
And for the industry, certainly for animation, can you talk a little bit about what it means for animators in your country?
Yeah, it's like it's a small country, but we have quite a lot of animated films being made, and all kinds of films, and there isn't kind of one style, but yeah, very personal stories, and I think this will help with the future films to elevate the whole industry, not just animation, but and yeah, so we are kind of trying to use this momentum to keep going.
It's incredible. Walter, I'm picking on you because you're choosing to drink. But no, clearly, Walter, your film is already a landmark work for Brazil, culturally and politically. Talk to us, if you can rewind a bit, about your frame of mind as you were developing this historically essential narrative, and then how it feels now in Brazil.
You know, the film is based on a book by a writer called Marcelo Rubens Paiva. And he started to write the book when he realized that his mother, who had fought for the family's memory for 3 decades, was losing her memory in the abyss of Alzheimer. And at the same time, he realized that the country was starting to lose its collective memory with the rise of the extreme right. Echo. And therefore he wrote this book in 2015 that had such an impact. When I read it, I was completely floored by it. Also because it took me back to a house that I had visited when I was in my youth. So it took me back to those memories, personal memories. And this is how the project started. And then 2 incredible screenwriters that are here, Murilo Hauser and Heitor Lorega, worked for 7 years in putting this together. And this was a very collective work, and we always thought that it should be shared collectively. And the most beautiful gift that we received in this journey was to see generations of Brazilians going back to the theater to really experience the film as a collective journey. And so more than 5 million Brazilians already went to see the film, and that was quite striking.
Bravo. And just for future, I spent my afternoon reading New York Times articles, plural, about the impact your film has had. So really, truly remarkable. Magnus, your background is Swedish and Polish, correct? Your personal background?
Yeah, I was born in Sweden. I moved to Poland when I was 20 to attend film school.
Yeah.
I stayed ever since. I now have a Polish citizenship as well. So now I'm both Swedish and Polish, and I made a film in Denmark.
So talk to us about this. I love this mix, and you chose an infamous Danish story. What drew you to this historical narrative, and specifically the violent narrative that you took on, which is based on a real history? No?
I was approached at first with this story. I didn't know about this story at first. I was approached by Line Langbæk, who's here, my co-writer, and Malene Blenkov, producer on the Danish side. And because I had worked a bit with Malene before, and I had hinted that I wanted to do a horror movie or something in that field, and she called me and said she might have something for me. And when I heard or read a short kind of idea or what this film could be from Lina, it was a story, like the true story, the true crime. This film is inspired by work crimes that really kind of scared me, or that story scared me. I'm a father of 2. My son had just been born at the time, so I was walking around a lot with a newborn in my arms while reading that story, and I feel that, of course, it hits this kind of spot of fear of any parent, like what will I do if something happens to my kids, and how will I go on as a human being? And I know that when I feel something like that, that's, I have a choice. I can either, hide under my pillow and live with that fear and kind of just go into that dark hole, or try to use it as some kind of fuel for storytelling or something creative. So I know there is a strong personal connection. and also it might make for a good horror movie. To some extent, because I set out, in a way to do a horror, but that's a kind of a North Star. In the end, I'm interested in character-driven cinema. And I also live in Poland, which is a country where I somehow felt that this story from 100 years ago in Denmark, from a very kind of oppressive society, has some similarities to the world I live in, where women don't have a choice. Some of the most restrictive abortion laws were introduced in 2020. So it's like as we move forward in time, some things just go backwards. In the 70s, people from Sweden would go to Poland because there was legal abortion available there while there wasn't in Sweden. So the world is such a dynamic place, but it hits my home territory and makes it very also relevant for me as a Pole. And it also gave me a chance to engage all the people I love to work with in Poland. And my long-time producer, Mariusz Włodarski, who was also here, and so many people I work with, from my cinematographer, editor, scenographer, costume designer, and to meet all these new people, my composer, who is also here, and everyone else from the crew. So it was a good, I like to work, okay, I'm gonna cut it short. I need to work with my family. So that's why I had to bring the film to Poland as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Manny, you've worked with Mohamed Rasulov on several previous films, no? But this effort was truly extraordinary. Talk to us about your strategies to produce a film about paranoia and mistrust, while your director was under himself extreme scrutiny and persecution.
Well, I've been working with Mohamed since 13 years now, and through all these 13 years, it was always part of the job. Secret communication, not being able to really send out the script, talk about the film publicly, which made the work very hard, and of course, fear for the people in Iran. I'm based in Hamburg, so my perspective was a much safer one, but this project was probably by far the most risky one. And a lot of days of shooting because of the small team and the difficult circumstances, and really every day we were very scared for the crew that news would go out. For the people who don't know, the film was completely shot in secret, illegally. And yes, it was really a miracle that we managed to get to the end of all these shooting days. And but unfortunately, after the shooting, there was a lot of repression against people involved. There still is. There is a court case filed against all the actors and the producers, and Mohamed still going. But nevertheless, we are really happy that we managed to finish the film and be here tonight and this weekend.
Truly inspirational. And then how much of the post-production actually happened in Iran versus Germany? Like, what was?
So what we did was that we had a lot of time pressure. First of all, we wanted to have the film ready for Cannes, but also if you stretch this process too long, they will find out about this process. So you can't spread a film over 5, 6, 7 years. And what we did was, parallel to the shooting, we received the proxy files, smaller files than the raw material. And Andrew, who's here tonight, he started editing while they were shooting. So it was important to get the material out, and we started to work on the post-production immediately. First the editing, and as soon as we had the last shot, we started to do all the post-production in Hamburg. And it was very difficult because Mohamed was not there. He was still in Iran. Then he was trying to leave the country, which took several weeks, and we were in Hamburg without the artistic director for the important decisions. But thankfully, in the last weeks, in the most important phase, he came to do the final, to make final important decisions and to have the film ready for Cannes.
There will be a film made about how this film was made someday.
Probably.
So, unfortunately, a representative from Emilia Perez was not able to be here with us tonight. again, because of the César Awards. We do, however, have a written statement from Jacques Audiard and Pascal Cachetot, which I am now going to read to all of you. We are so sorry that we cannot be there with you all this evening. Emilia Perez has been a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We are so grateful for the incredible team who has given so much of their talents and passion in bringing this film to life. With Emilia Perez, we hoped to tell a story about the power of self-love and acceptance, and we could not have asked for a more collaborative team to bring this story to the screen. From our editor, Juliette, to our cinematographer, Paul, to our composers and songwriters, Clément and Camille, to the sound and hair and makeup teams, and of course, our incredible cast. This project has been a true collaboration in every sense of the word. The crew's boundless talent and tenacity allowed us to defy genre and embrace experimentation. Emilia Perez explores the hardest of human journeys, finding the courage to live as your authentic self as a radical act of love, a theme that we hope reverberates with audiences worldwide. We live in such challenging times. It's important to give ourselves the permission to be moved collectively and to experience our emotions, to treasure the whole of our experiences and those with whom we can create lasting art. Art is life, and through cinema, we can discover and celebrate our shared humanity. So in my welcome, I spoke words in many languages, human and animal. This is a category for films in languages other than English, and it is organized around national representation. My question, though, relates to something that has been noted, and Tilda Swinton actually spoke of at the opening of the Berlin Film Festival just a few weeks ago. She described a borderless realm of cinema and how liberating that space can be for artists and audiences. I'm going to ask each of you to address whether or not you feel liberated in terms of language and location as filmmakers at this point, or are there still barriers that you want to smash down, we can help smash down? And conversely, what are some of the benefits of working regionally or locally? Walter, your film is perhaps the most of its place, both in terms of language and location. And you've worked globally, though. I mean, you've worked in many parts of the world. You've worked in many languages. What about working on this project felt like coming home, and how was it important for you to work locally in this case?
You know, we are in the United States and got reminded of a sentence by Duke Ellington. Okay. If you allow me to drift to music for a little bit. Please. He was asked once what a student could do to become a musician. And he said, well, first you have to listen to other musicians all the time, and then you have to listen to yourself. And you only become a musician by combining the two. And if you stop actually listening to each other or listening to yourself, you're not in music anymore. I find that's a really beautiful quote. And you know, whether you're shooting in Brazil or outside, you have to listen to yourself. And that to embrace I'm Still Here was really an act of deeply hearing myself. Thanks to, again, Marcelo's book that allowed me to plunge into the memory and to the different layers of memory that we're talking about. There's the memory of every single member of that family, and then there's the collective memory, you know, of the country in the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s, and all of that entails different levels of responsibility, because you're talking about a story that truly existed, so you have to represent it in a way that is authentic, and this is why it took us so long to actually be here, 7 years.
Magnus, you've already spoken a bit about working across borders on this picture. You want to talk specifically how, I mean, you shot this in Poland, right? Bringing the Danish crew, the Danish element in together, what was that process like?
I always seen like this kind of being a bit of an outsider or not speaking a language perfectly as a superpower of kind, or as something that gives you a special way of looking at a story. And as I was directing, short films when I went to the Polish film school without really knowing the language, and also to direct, the wonderful actresses of Vic Carmenson and Trine Dyrholm, also here present tonight. It's like, it's a way for me to not be part of Denmark, or not having grown up there or having roots in that country. It gives me an outsider POV of a story that is maybe very Danish. And I think it allows me to look at the story from a slightly different point of view. Or I like to think of it as a kind of healthy arrogance or healthy ignorance of things that you kind of take with you when you grow up in a country. And when you're not part of that, you see it from a slightly different point of view. And I have always, in the 3 feature films I've done, it has been quite dependent upon such a POV, and also of not really being part of that culture or the language. And I always feel that it's most difficult for me to express myself in Swedish, which is my mother tongue, because I don't have any slack. I'm really taken by my words. But while in other countries, you can float a bit and you're excused, and there's a different kind of communication that is quite interesting. And I've learned to really appreciate that. And I think it also, bringing, like in this film, it's also, Sweden is also part of this film, even if on a smaller scale than Denmark and Poland. It also, this kind of way of working together and connecting countries or across borders, I think in the end it makes the film also more accessible to other parts of the world. And especially, I believe of like somehow shooting a Danish film in Poland, or developing it in a screenplay with Line, who is also not living in Denmark anymore, who lives in London, and not being part of that very culture brings it also to a bigger audience eventually. I think that's inspiring, because somehow working with more people across borders also brings the film across borders.
Absolutely. Gins, there's a big tradition, applause, definitely. Tradition in animation of working across borders and across digital space even, right? Where you don't even necessarily need to be in the same room or studio anymore to create animation. But you created this together locally in Riga, was it that you shot it?
Yeah,
No.
we did
most
of the stuff in Riga, Latvia, except the character animation and sound, and those were done in France and Belgium. But yeah, it was a very small team, and most of us were in a single room, and so it was great that we could kind of all speak to each other. There wasn't like a big hierarchy of kind of supervisors, and everyone could approach me, and I could quickly give an idea to an animator, and we could send files back and forth. And sometimes in a bigger production, it might take weeks of just planning meetings to make any decision, but we can work very quickly and flexibly. And I would also travel back and forth between these countries and work remotely. And but yeah, it was great working with the team, and I could really like use that energy. But sometimes I get really like overwhelmed by that. I was used to being by myself, so sometimes I would just stay at home and focus. It's easier to write or be kind of in that creative zone on my own. And it was also like in the film where the cat starts to embrace these other characters and gets close with them, and then the cat would climb up the towers to be alone. And I did that for a period. I had to stay home, and I needed to focus. But then I realized, no, I need to go back down. I need to be with my team again. And so it was, and that my flat is on the like the top floor of this old building, so it's a lot of stairs. There's no elevator, and I would just climb and climb and stay up in the tower. But I did climb down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just discovered Flow is an autobiography. just to push a little further, I mean, because you don't use spoken language in the film, there is nonetheless language, and it's expressive language. It's almost like a silent film kind of expressiveness. And when you're writing that, I'm interested in how you wrote that and communicated that to your crew. The expressiveness in the faces, the movements of your animals, your characters.
I think we understand characters by their actions, how they choose to, how they behave. And I think even if there is dialogue, I think it's, dialogue is just the outer layer. It's really what they do and how they react to things. And so I didn't feel it really much different than writing anything with dialogue. But yeah, it's not just the movement and what we like. It's everything. It's part of a language, and cinema is a language, and there's a grammar and the syntax to the way that images are edited and the juxtaposition of that, and so it's something quite universal. You don't really need to like study it. Like you can understand cinema by watching, and you can understand it better. But I think it's one of the easiest languages to pick up. Like you can. You don't need to go to school, I think, and so it's something that can transcend. Like I didn't go to school, but just watching our films, and you kind of pick it up, and it becomes part of your subconscious, and it's very intuitive for me. It's kind of, I don't have like rules set out that we're going to use these kind of lenses and we're going to do this and that, and every shot might have a different technique and. But yeah, it is something that can, I think that's part of the appeal, that I think people forget that there's no dialogue. They just follow the story and get carried away by that. And those are my favorite scenes, which are very visual or which are more about the experience than kind of conveying exposition or whatever. So we just try to strip it down from all of that and focus on the emotion.
Manny, borders are a critical part of your film, and as we spoke about just earlier, most importantly around the production or the danger of the production of the film, but also in the end, the crossing of borders allowed this film to exist and allowed this film to compete in this category. Talk to us a little bit about your thoughts about representing Iranian cinema and representing a tradition that is there, but also representing your home country, which is Germany.
Well, unfortunately, Mohammed always had to work his films in a very undogmatic, very special way. So the first time, for example, I worked with him in 2012. He shot all the interior scenes of his film Manuscripts Don't Burn in Iran, and brought secretly the actors to Hamburg, and we had a very small studio, and we shot all the exterior scenes were shot in Iran, the interior scenes in Hamburg, and then the film had to be cut together to make it the film that it was. So it was always because of the pressure that he had to think of special ways. And this film is even more international in the way that I was really astonished how this cooperation could work. The dialogue editing was done in Hamburg. Andrew Bird, maybe I'm telling a secret, but does not know Farsi. He still managed to edit the film, which was really amazing for us. The composer was in Sweden. Unfortunately, he's an Iraqi Sweden. He did not get a visa. He was planning to come here, and he couldn't make it tonight, which I'm very sad. He can get on his flight. We had a singer from Canada who sang for us and sent her. So this was really international cooperation, and very interesting how it worked. But also on the artistic way, I know that Mohammed is really interested to see the perspective on the subject of repression and control in cinema. So he was also very impressed, for example, by the film The Life of the Others, a film focusing on Eastern Germany, spying on your neighbors. And so he also related to subjects which remind him of his home country, but which were represented in films, for example, from Germany and other countries. And in general, I can say that this topic, borders, crossing borders, thinking beyond borders, is very important for Mohammed, but also for me.
So you all have spent a year at least, probably in most cases, speaking about your films. So in recognition of this, in 2021, Susanna Bier, my former co-chair in this committee, and I began a tradition of having each of the nominees say a few words about another film in the category. It can be expressionistic, it can be, or impressionistic rather, or specific, just something you drew from the film. Et comme Jacques n'est pas là, je vais parler in his place. I will speak in Jacques Audiard's place about Magnus, your film, A Girl with a Needle. I could say so much. I'm a curator and I like to talk about movies, and so I could go on, but I'm going to give something impressionistic and the feelings that your film gave, rather than talking about the story. What really struck me was the incredible immersiveness of your film. I was drawn into this world, which of course is a historical period film, but it felt urgent, it felt timely, it felt now, even though it was almost like a fable, although I know it's based in real history. You do this through multiple methods, the visceral cinematography, the incredible tactile and honorific, let's say, production design. I almost felt like I was living in these rooms with these characters. And of course, the harrowing performances. You really created something that grabs us by the throat in the greatest of horror traditions, but also makes us think. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So since I spoke about your film first, you can go first. Would you please say a few words about Flow?
Well, first of all, I watched Flow together with my 5-year-old son the first time I watched it, and it's one of those rare moments when both of us are glued to the screen for the entire duration of the film. And I felt both of us were very touched by it. And just that is an amazing feat, I think, because most of the time the thing he watches, I'm not so interested in. And the things I watch, he's not so interested in. So you brought us together in a couch. Your film did that without any dialogue, and with a film that is, I also thought about another, that's one thing that was amazing, and it was good for me and my son. But I also thought about Dogma 95, like the Danish tradition developed by Winterberg, by Lars von Trier and Lone Scherfig, and like many great Danish filmmakers, where they took away all the sensational elements of filmmaking and just focused on story and cleaned the plate and proved that just storytelling is the only thing you need to attract people to any kind of film. You don't need big explosions or amazing sound, or it can be really, really dirty. As long as the story is interesting, you will sit glued to the screen. And you also, in my opinion, did that in a different way, or with these animals. You proved to me, or in this setting, that the only thing you need is to focus on storytelling and the relationships between those animals, and you don't need dialogue for that. But if you get me into a story, I don't need anything else that would be maybe my field of preference. I very quickly somehow forget about the animation, or I forget about that there is no dialogue. I even eventually forget that it's a cat. So congrats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gintz, would you mind telling us some thoughts about Walter's film, I'm Still Here?
Yeah, it's it's like such a big topic you're exploring, but I think you did it right by kind of focusing on the intimate and kind of showing that these are real people that went through this tragedy, and it, like these suppressive systems want you to forget that and make you think that it's like treats everyone as just a number on the page and forgets the humanity, and you kind of remind that these are real people who went through this, and I think that's the beauty of cinema, that we can kind of find this empathy by focusing on the intimate and on these moments where you made them feel like a real family, where as they are, and we can kind of have such a strong emotional experience by being very small and by focusing on these details and the humanity, and it felt so real. I don't know, it just it's so impactful because you're not kind of, because you're treating it as real. You're not kind of trying to manipulate anything, and I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, very. I felt very moved by the restraint you had and by just the empathy you had for all these people and the humanity you were able to showcase. And so, yeah, thank you for that. And I also was lucky to see it in a theater in New York, and there were a lot of Brazilians there, and this really really I think made a big difference. I think the film works on its own, but to experience together with others, it really added to my experience. And I think that's also the beauty of cinema, of experiencing stories together and kind of feeling that emotion together. It can be like going through this cathartic emotion together kind of helps us, yeah, shows us, kind of unites us in some ways.
Manny, any words on Emilia Perez for us?
Well, I think I have to jump over my shadow, as we say in Germany, to say nice things about this film, because I think every award we have been, where we're nominated, Emilia Perez won the main prize.
Same here.
But yeah, before I talk about the film, just 3 days ago, there was an official warning from the German Federal Foreign Ministry on their website, you can check it, where it warns German citizens who have a passport where their gender identity is not the same as from their birth, that they might get problems traveling into the US, and that they are supposed to contact the US Embassy. This was 3 days ago, and yeah, so tens of thousands of Germans who changed their gender identity now don't know, can they travel to the US? What happens if they travel here? If they're controlled, will they be deported? Some of them, my friends now, who are planning to come. So what I'm saying is this film comes exactly at the right time. But what I like about the film is that, of course, the film is about transition, but not only. This is not the only topic. This film, probably in this way that a musical works, touches different topics about racism and sexism, working as a woman, trying to build up a career, talking about all the violence in Mexico, and touching these really emotional and important subjects, but still in a way that you're really there with your heart. And yeah, so I was really impressed how all these subjects were put into this film. Of course, the people who have seen it, the dancing was very impressive, and the music. I'm not an expert on musicals, but I was also really impressed by the from my perspective, very brave way to do the singing. I thought it was a very authentic kind of singing, a very raw kind of singing, also different than musicals I knew, but musical probably in the best tradition of showing marginalized perspectives. Yeah, so, but I cannot congratulate the people responsible for this film.
Maybe they're watching on the YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Walter, the last word to you about The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Yeah, I'm so honored to speak about this film because I was so deeply moved by it. I think that what Mohammad Rasulov does there is very, very difficult. Through the microcosm of family, you're really transported into a country. And I very rapidly forgot that I was seeing a film, but that I was just moved by those characters and transported to that reality. You know, I was touched since the beginning when the father comes home and says that he got a new job. It's not as an investigating judge. And that will possibly allow them to have the family of 4. So father, mother, 2 daughters, to have a larger apartment. And he receives a gun as a token to actually confront that situation. And the entrance of that foreign element in the family, in which he shares for a second with the wife, is an extraordinary scene. It's one that contains the film as a whole. There are certain films where every single scene contains the film as a whole, but it's very difficult to do that. And I think that The Seed of the Sacred Fig does that as well. As the father confronts a moral question because he has to actually decide whether he's going to bend to the idea of not confronting the usando as penalidades, how do you say the ears. I'm sorry, I'm trying to translate from Portuguese with my jet lag. It's not that easy, but basically, as an investigating judge, he now has to actually sign or not sign the penalties that are incurred in every single person that has committed or not a crime. And we are in a moment where the society in Tehran is in a trance. And he soon decides actually to go with that. So he shuts his eyes to the society, and at the same time his daughters decide to actually open their eyes to society through social media and to actually see what's happening in the streets of Tehran. And Rasulov brings those scenes inside the film, and it actually blends the documentary scenes of what's going on in Tehran today with the fictional scenes. And somehow the blending of what is of a documentary nature and what is of a fictional nature is absolutely seamless. It's incredible because it's an impure structure, but it works perfectly. So this is a complete, unique film, a film about a family that implodes. It's almost the opposite of what happens in the film that I directed. And at the same time, that this film has been thought from the position that Mohammed was in when he had to actually articulate the film, really is extraordinary because the film seems so completely architectured from beginning to the end. It's really a cinematic miracle that the film exists. I think it's one of the best films of the year, and not only in this category.
Thank you all for your incredibly generous thoughts. I learn every year something new about these films in this process. Look, it's been an incredible year for international cinema at the Oscars. Absolutely. After several years in a row with an international film being nominated for Best Picture, including Bong Joon-ho's historic win for Parasite, for the first time we have 2 films from this category nominated for Best Picture. Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here. This category also, we also have a double nominee in Flow in the animated category. This category is also home to the most nominated film of the year. It's Emilia Perez. The well-deserved recognition for global cinema is thrilling and something I have been very proud to have been supporting for the last 6 years on the International Feature Film Award Executive Committee, including the last 4 years as co-chair. As Meredith pointed out, this is my last year in that position, and I want to thank all of the members of the Academy who have dedicated their time and intelligence to this award, and of course, most importantly, to the filmmakers who have inspired us. As my friend Ann Thompson, the great writer, wrote in IndieWire this year, the international Oscars are here to stay, and that is something worth celebrating indeed. Viva il cinema. See you at the Oscars. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.